Welcome back to another race breakdown. And today we're going to be looking at the Nairobi Men's 100-meter Continental Tour race featuring this man. That's Ferdinand Omanyala of Kenya, racing in front of his home crowd. Personal best 9.77, which took place in this meet. And he's going to be going up against a tough field, which features two top Americans in Kenny Bednarik and Marvin Bracey Williams. His history in this meet, well, he does his best running in Kenya. He's run the 9.77 here. He's run another 9.8 here as well. He's gone against Bromell. He's gone against Fred Curley. And today he'll take on two other top Americans. The crowd, they were there for the distance races. They were there for the field events, but they also were there to see Ferdinand Omanyala. This was the last race of the meet. A lot of attention and a lot of noise because before this race started, Ferdinand Omanyala had a job to do, which was try to quiet down this raucous crowd in Nairobi. You don't see it that often that we need to have the crowd reminded to be quiet multiple times at the start of a 100-meter race, or really any race, particularly the 100, where you need to make sure you hear the starters command. But that was what Omanyala was tasked with doing, because they're going to get called into the blocks, and he's going to have to ask them, please be quiet. I appreciate the cheers, but we got to get this race off. And the crowd was incredibly loud, even as they're called behind their blocks. So we have this long delay here. We'll fast forward it a bit because what happens is, oh, he's still asking them to be quiet. They're still waiting. They're still waiting. They're still waiting. Eventually, they're going to get called down into their blocks. But you see what happens here. They think they're going to get this race underway, and we're going to see another fast 100. We get called up again. You look at Omanyala's face. He almost feels bad, I think. He almost feels responsible for the fact that the crowd is this loud because he knows what it's like to be in this position. You just want to get the race underway. So he's asking them to quiet. The officials are begging people, please be quiet, please be quiet. I mean, you thought for a moment Omanyala would just have to grab the microphone and say, can we please just let us shoot the gun, and then after that we can go. This lady right here in the yellow, she's just saying, come on, let's be quiet. I want to watch this race. I don't want to have to keep asking to restart it. But he is a rock star there in Nairobi, and everybody wants to see him. And the reason why you want it quiet at the start is so people can hear all the starters' commands, and so we get away with a clean start and we don't have any issues at the start, such as a false start, which is what's about to happen right here. So the situation that they wanted to avoid, they didn't avoid. Another Kenyan athlete, you see him jump there on the bottom. Yeah, way too early there with and he's going to be given the red card. So now the field is down to 7, still with Omanyala, and we're hoping that we can get this race underway. Can we do it? Omanyala's asked for quiet multiple times. Let's see. And we are away, thankfully. Omanyala out well. Bednarik to his outside, running well. But it's Omanyala powering away down the home stretch, 9.84 seconds into a slight headwind. And now he's saying, now you can celebrate, now you can scream, now you can yell as loud as you want. And look at the crowd that turned up to watch him run. He was fired up. Credit to him. You know, a lot of people say home court advantage, home field advantage in sports, but competing at home, especially in an individual sport, is very tricky. You know, all eyes are on you, and Omanyala delivered there with his 9.84, which is the world lead. Let's break this down a little bit more. I want to talk first about Omanyala's profile as a runner. I think it's kind of interesting because 9.77 and a 20.33 is obviously more of a 100 guy than a 200 guy, but his 60 time, 6.54, I would have thought, hey, might be a little bit faster. I know he hasn't been on the scene that long, but he ran a pretty robust indoor schedule this year and only 6.54. Let's just contrast him with the two guys in the race with him. Marvin Bracey Williams, he's a 60-100 guy, right? Has put up some really fast 60-meter times and some really good 100-meter marks. Bednarik, he's a 100, 200, actually even a 400 guy. The range with Kenny B is just phenomenal. Whereas Omanyala is just tailor-made for this 100. And let's watch this back. You can see, like, the start was good, but it didn't end the race. It wasn't a Pete Christian Coleman or Trayvon Bromell style start. It was good, but where he really took off was this middle portion of the race. That's where he gained separation and moved away from Bednarik and Bracey Williams. The start is good, don't get me wrong, but he's really locked in on this 100-meter distance. That is where his bread is buttered. The other thing I thought was interesting when you look at his performances in Nairobi. So this gives a top 10 performance list for Omanyala 977. This was the 984, then a 985, and then 986, 996. Of his sub 10s, 3 of his best performances all in Kenya, 3 other ones that are sub 10, not in Kenya. So the question is, hey, is he going to be able to replicate this when he competes on the Diamond League circuit and ultimately at the World Championships? A couple things to keep in mind, though, with Omanyala. He's only really been on the scene since 2021 at this top level. You look at now 2020 obviously was screwed up, but you see different class of sprinter back then. Even going back to 2019, he's running 10.5s and 10.4s. You got into the 10.3s in the end, but all competitions, most of the competitions actually, in Kenya. You go to 2021, and that's where you see the breakout in the latter half of the season, cemented with the 977 in Kenya at this meet. But his real opportunity to run fast, I thought, outside of Kenya was at the 2022 World Championships. But for him, that meet was obviously made much more difficult with the visa issues. He got into Eugene just hours before the first round. That did not help his performance at all. He still did well. Got out of the first round, then ran 10:14 in the semis. But I thought this was the real opportunity for him to get a solid sub-10 clocking. I thought he would have made it to the final if he had normal preparation. He didn't went on to win Commonwealth, still had a good solid season, but I just thought that was one competition where the opportunity to run at his potential was taken from him, through no fault of his own with the travel situation. So, of course, we want to see Omanyala, what he can do outside of Kenya, but still beating these top Americans and just these top, these are all medalists that he's been beating in these races, just bodes well for him overall in the future. And if you're looking at from the American perspective of who could be someone to break up a potential U.S. sweep like they had last year in Eugene, Omanyala, I think, is the number one candidate right now to get on the podium. I think he has an outside shot at gold right now as well, too. But another scintillating performance for Ferdinand Omanyala in Nairobi. The fans were loud. The fans were passionate. They got to see their star get it done once again at home. That's it for this edition of the Race Breakdown. Be sure to subscribe to the FloTrack YouTube page for more. We'll talk to you guys next time.